Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us at our school swimming webinar for English language schools today. My name is Caitlin and I will be hosting you through this webinar, and we will be joined by a couple of special guests who will be talking all things school swimming and water safety education in our webinar today as well. To start us off, we would like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We do request that you keep your microphones muted and your cameras do remain off throughout the presentation. You can see that these have been disabled for you, so you don't have to worry about that part of things. We would like to point out that live captions are available. If you would like to anonymously turn those on, you simply have to click on the three dots at the top of your screen, scroll down to the function that says turn on live captions, and you'll be able to access those throughout the presentation. Please be mindful that this meeting or this webinar will be recorded. This is so that we can pop it on our webinar recordings page on our toolkit so that you can refer back to it at a later date. Or if you have any colleagues or other staff who would benefit from watching this webinar recording, you will be able to pass it on to them as well. This recording will be placed onto the toolkit on that page, and we will pop the link in the chat shortly during this week. So by the end of this week, we should have that link up and ready for you to watch. And we do always say that if you have any questions or comments at any time throughout the presentation, please do pop them straight into the chat at any time while they're fresh in your brain, and we will get to them at a suitable time during the presentation. And to start us off, like I mentioned before, please do jump on the chat now. That is that little speech bubble icon at the top of your screen. Make sure you jump on, say hello, and let us know where you are joining us from as well, which school you're joining us from. Now, I would like to I have introduced myself. My name is Caitlin Greenhill and I'm a Project Officer for Swimming and Water Safety Education here at Lifesaving Victoria. Today, we will also be joined by Liz White, who is the Statewide Swimming Coordinator at the Department of Education and Training. And we will also have a presentation from Michael Matheny, who is the Manager of Delivery, Diversity and Inclusion at Lifesaving Victoria as well. And as always, we do have our education team in the chat to answer any of your questions as they pop up, or to get in contact with you as well throughout the presentation. So throughout today's session, we will be looking at a few different things. We're going to start off by discussing the school swimming funding that is available to English language schools from next year, and that will be discussed with you by Liz White from DET. We will then talk a bit about how to implement a school swimming program. We know that some schools, or many schools, already do implement a school swimming program, but we do have a few tips and tricks to help you if you haven't yet developed your own school swimming program, or if you're looking to update it, review it, or even just take on some new tips and tricks to help you plan it for next year and future programs as well. We will then be joined by Michael, who will be discussing beach and open water programs, as well as our Meter Lifeguard program and other incursions offered by LSV. We will look into some classroom resources and a new toolkit page that has been dedicated to English language schools, so that's very exciting. And then of course, we will go through some tips and tricks to help you develop and implement your very best school swimming and water safety program from next year onwards. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Liz White from the Department of Education and Training, who is going to share with us all about school swimming funding that is available from next year. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Caitlin, and hi everyone. It's great to have everybody here on this webinar. I thought before Caitlin and Michael take you through the resources and the programs that are available to English language schools, I thought it'd be worthwhile giving you a bit of background on the funding. Let me see, I've taken control. Let's see if this works. It does. Terrific. So swimming and water safety education has been part of the Victorian curriculum since 2017, and there are two streams of funding that support swimming and water safety education. The first one is the Swimming in Schools initiative, and this provides funds directly to schools for the delivery of swimming and water safety programs. So the schools that are funded are Catholic primary schools, as well as Victorian government schools, which are the primary, the specialist, and from next year in 2022, it also includes English language schools. The second stream of funding is the Public Water Safety Initiative, and this is a contract we have with Lifesaving Victoria for the development of resources and the provision of training and direct support to the education sector and the aquatic industry. Now, in May of this year, the Victorian Government handed down its state budget, the 2021-22 state budget, and within that budget, there was a $55.2 million commitment to swimming and water safety education over the next 3 years. In addition to this, there was $15.1 million committed by the government for transport costs relating to swimming and water safety education. So that's $70.3 million over the next 3 years. Victorian government schools receive this funding in the Student Resource Package, the SRP, and this funding can be used at any year level within the school. Now, in terms of how the funding for each school is calculated, for primary schools, it's based on Year 6 enrolments, but for specialist schools and English language schools, it's for each student that is enrolled at the school. So in metropolitan Melbourne, English language schools will receive $235 per student enrolled, and in regional Victoria, English language schools will receive $270 per student enrolled. Now, once we understood that this funding had been committed, we reached out to English language schools via the EAL Corporate Experience Program, and we were absolutely delighted to have Sue Ackroyd from Collingwood English Language School join us from July this year to work with LSV's Diversity and Inclusion team, as well as the LSV's education team, to develop resources and videos and worksheets for newly arrived students. Sue's insight and her expertise as an English language school teacher has been absolutely invaluable, and we're really pleased that she's staying on next year for term 1 as well. Now, that's the context from the department's perspective. I'm now going to hand back to Caitlin so that she and Michael can go through the programs and the resources with you. But I will be staying on for the rest of the webinar, and I'm happy to answer any questions you put in the chat. But if you have questions after this presentation, please feel free to email me or call me on those details there. I'm happy to answer any questions at any stage. All right, and handing back to you, Caitlin. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Liz, and hopefully that's given everybody an insight into the funding that is available. As Liz said, her contact details are on screen there, so please don't hesitate if you do have any questions. As Liz said, in terms of funding, you are able to get in contact with DET through that way. Okay, so what we are going to look at now is the ways that you can book and implement a school swimming program. Now, this may be very familiar to many of our teachers and schools joining us today. It is great to see that so many of you are already implementing school swimming programs at your school, and hopefully the funding that is made available to you from next year allows you to make those even bigger, even better, and bring about some of the fantastic opportunities and experiences that we will discuss and share with you today. So looking at this slide here, we do have some resources available on the toolkit, and I might actually get somebody from our education team to pop a link straight into the chat here to the toolkit. It is very easy to remember. If you would like to reach the toolkit, it is at www.lsv.com.au/, as you guessed it, toolkit. Very, very easy. Now, the toolkit is a place where we keep all of our information about school swimming and water safety education. That includes funding information, information about curriculums. However, we understand that the English language curriculum is very different to the mainstream Victorian curriculum. Lots of information about different programs that are available, as well as all of our free resources, lesson plans, activity sheets, the work. So there are lots and lots of freebies on that toolkit. So we do encourage you to go and visit that when you get the chance, when it comes to the time that you are planning and implementing your school swimming programs. Now, one of the resources that is going to assist everybody in planning their school swimming programs is the options matrix, which is on the toolkit. Now, this options matrix, there is an online tool. There is also a poster version of this options matrix, and it shares and displays all the possible opportunities that you have, the different options that you can choose from in your school swimming program. So which year levels or age groups do you want to target for your swimming program? Do you want to have it as a pool-based program? Do you want to have it as a pool-based and classroom-based program by bringing in some of the classroom resources available? Would you like to extend it out to a beach program or an inland waterway program to assist your students to take their learnings that they've used in the pool out to an open water location as well? So it provides you with an understanding, a list, and lots of links in there as well to different opportunities, different resources that you can bring together to develop your best swimming and water safety education program for your students. So definitely the first one I would encourage you all to have a look at. The next key thing that you need to do when you are booking your swimming program is find your local swim school, discuss options for your program, and discuss the dates that are going to work best for both you, your students, and the swim school as well. We definitely encourage you to get in early, as we do know that places are booking out, especially since we have seen over the past couple of years that many swimming lessons have been cancelled. So a lot of those schools have shifted into next year. So make sure you get on top of that if you haven't already. Definitely get in contact with your local swim school. And if you would like any assistance with that, please don't hesitate to contact us at Lifesaving Victoria. We are here to help you all. So we are more than happy to talk you through the process of how to book or even assist you with contacting your local swim school as well. As I mentioned earlier, do utilise the resources that are on the online toolkit. Another lot that are very, very helpful with booking your swimming and water safety program is the parent survey. That allows you to determine the student's prior swimming experience. This is something that your school could look into. Perhaps you would like to translate this into various languages as well. That is a possibility if you would like to take that resource and translate it for your parents. Otherwise, it is English language based, and it is on our toolkit as well. So a great way to get an insight, get an understanding into your students' prior experiences and their swimming skills and the levels that they sit at the moment. We also have an importance of school swimming information sheet. That is a great thing that you can also translate as well. And we do have a parent sheet that is on the English language schools page on the toolkit also. So that is a great one that you, again, are welcome to translate and pass around to your parents to give them information about the importance of school swimming and water safety programs, as well as some key water safety messages that the parents can understand as well. Finally, we also have our booking checklist. Now, this is a fantastic resource for schools. We know that there's a lot going on to be able to plan and book and implement school swimming programs. So we do have a booking checklist available on our toolkit. And I'll show you now exactly what that looks like. So here on your screen, you can see the school swimming booking checklist. This is just a snippet. It is a multi-page booking form or checklist form. And it tells you the different steps that you should take and when you should take them leading up to your school swimming program. So at least 6 to 12 months in advance, these are the things that you should be looking into. So don't stress if you haven't done this yet and you know that your school swimming program may be 6 months away, but this is the time frame that we recommend to ensure that you have a greater likelihood of being able to book in your school swimming program in the dates that you are hoping to get them. So these are just some different things that you can look at when you're contacting your swim school. You can think about whether the school swimming program aligns with the curriculum or with the sorts of skills that students would develop in a typical school curriculum. Are the swim teachers conducting the lessons adequately qualified to teach swimming and water safety? What capacity does the facility have to accommodate students with learning and/or physical difficulties? And what report of student assessment data will the facility provide to both students and parents and your school at the completion of the program? So getting assessment data is very, very important for you to be able to share that with parents and assess the students' development of their skills as they continue on through schooling, especially when they're moving into mainstream schools. It's great to be able to provide the schools with that data, as mainstream schools will often continue the swimming and water safety programs as well. And mainstream schools will likely implement the Victorian Water Safety Certificate, which is a government initiative that describes a number of competencies that students are expected to achieve by a certain level. So it will be fantastic for the school or the mainstream school that the students are moving into, and the parents as well of the child, to see where their students are at with their swimming and water safety programs and how their skills align to that certificate, so that their students can continue to progress towards achieving that certificate. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, hopefully I have not overwhelmed you with all the possible things that are on the toolkit. Make sure you do give yourself a chance at the end of this presentation to have a look through it, discuss it with your colleagues, see which resources and information is relevant to you, and we may even get a chance to go through it at the end of this presentation. But before we get to that, I would like to introduce Michael, who is going to share a little bit more about the open water and the classroom-based programs that we have on offer at Lifesaving Victoria.
Hang on. Just have to take control of you, Caitlin. Here we go. Okay, hello everyone. Many of you in the chat I've already met, worked with, or talked to over the phone before, and to those who I haven't, welcome and nice to meet you. So just going to run through, I guess, the programming or the open water programs and classroom programs that we have and will continue to offer at LSV as part of our, or was for 14 years, the multicultural department at Lifesaving Victoria, now the diversity inclusion department. So the beach program, very popular one, and that's running all through November, December, February and March, so terms 4 and terms 1 every year. And the beach program, it's a 2 to 3 hour, almost like a holiday program style activity at your local beach. And this is Western English Language School, who were at Williamstown Beach last year, taking part in one of the programs. We've done these programs with almost all of the language schools across Victoria most years. So you know, it's a combination of giving kids a positive first experience at the water, and we sort of talk about that experience being the most important thing here. As you can see, there's some safety elements to it as well. We've got the kids wearing life jackets, learning about rescue techniques, paddling around on the boards, and we do some sand activities as well. The best thing about the programs that we run, a lot of the students, or a lot of the staff who run our programs on the beach are ex-language school students themselves. One of the boys in one of these photos in particular went to Western English Language School about four or so years ago, and now he's teaching Western English Language School at the beach. So we can run these programs for anywhere from 20 to up to 100 people on one day. And yeah, basically going into next season or next summer, we will be having a version 1 and a version 2 as an option. Version 1 is, or session 1 is, what you know and what you've probably already done at the beach. That 2 or 3 hour introduction to the water, 4 to 6 activities, 15 to 20 minutes each. Version 2 is an extension of that, and it's more games, a bit of competition, a bit of a carnival style experience at the beach, and more of an extension of what they learnt at the first session. So that's our beach program. Then we have our classroom water safety, and so that's called our Meet a Lifeguard program. Once again, have done this to with many of the language schools over the screen over the past couple of months, but also you know, for many years been visiting classrooms, and that's our anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes to suit the group, suit the age and the language ability of the groups. Everything we do is very visual, so bring along a PowerPoint presentation and show lots of photos and videos, and make it very easy to understand. And this is all building the knowledge base before students would then use that knowledge at the beach. Very important one that we've been trying to run with a lot of the language schools before heading into a busy summer around the rivers, lakes, beaches, and it's called a meter lifeguard, which might imply swimming pools or the beach, but we talk about all elements of water safety. And session 1, 2, and 3. So we do have our same session that we've been running, a bit of everything, a bit of all-encompassing water knowledge. We will have a coastal version and an inland version if you for your regional schools, and also for some of the older students or older classes who are looking to transition potentially into some of our training programs. We're sort of a meter lifeguard role model version. So it's talking more about you know, the training pathway and how to become a lifesaver and you know, get into the workforce basically. So there's a few different options there. All the details of these we'll come out with in the new year, but yeah, that's the idea with the classroom water safety. And then we have our resuscitator mate. So once again, it's great in the classroom. Everyone gets their own makeshift mannequin to do the CPR with. This can absolutely be taken online as well if it needs to be. But you know, very hands-on experience in the classroom, running people through our doctor's ABC, basically our emergency response steps, and they get the hands-on experience. And you know, we're Lifesaving Victoria. It's all about helping people around the water, but this really is a life skill that we encourage for kids to use. That could be used anywhere, as we know. Version 2 would be a basic first aid, almost an extension of this CPR. Once again, very visual, key words, key concepts, but you know, that version 2 would be available as well. The resuscitator mate, as it is, as we've been rolling out for many years, would remain the same. Now, yeah, as I said, both of these classroom sessions are virtual as well as face-to-face, and it's completely up to the school, whichever option you want to take. It doesn't have to be, you know, in a lockdown scenario that you have to do the virtual, or it doesn't have to be only regional schools doing the virtual. It's completely up to the school's preference to choose which version you want to. And regional schools. So there is the option as well to do an inland program. We call it the Open Water Learning Experience program at basically the nearest river or lake. So that would be relevant to our Mildura and Shepparton language schools. And both of these versions for regional schools would be charged at slightly cheaper rates to what I'm about to show you now. So our current program costs, you might be thinking, well, our current program cost is $0 because you simply book in the program and we sort out the back end of it. You just rock up on the day and pay for your bus. We've worked on a model where we get funding from other organisations, you know, whether it be a local council who wants to invest in a more diverse community around the water, or a philanthropic organisation who wants to invest and put money towards beach programs and classroom programs and upskilling cold communities. That's how we've traditionally funded this. Now, with the funding from the Department of Education, the funding will be going direct to the schools, and then the schools would pay us for the programs. So there always has been a cost attached to these programs in the back end. You've just never sort of been aware of it because it hasn't been relevant for you at the school. Those costs are $15 per student for a meter lifeguard or a classroom program, let's say, $15 student for the CPR classroom. A beach day, so a full day at the beach, would be $45 per student. And going into swimming lessons as well, because it is still relevant, although LSV wouldn't be taking the money for the swim lessons. You know, the market rate for the swimming lessons is $18 per session per student. So if you're doing your 5-lesson swimming program, there's $90. In a typical year, I usually hear or see the language schools doing. The winter might be we'll do a resuscitator mate. Then closer to summer we might visit in the classroom, and then just before or just after Christmas you'll visit us at the beach and somewhere in there you'll do your swimming program, and sort of a little bit of everything. So that's costing you $165 in theory, if you actually paid for all of that. So that sort of just gives you an idea. Now those costs are what's existing right now. They may change into next summer. So just to give you an idea of the concept here. So if we sort of look at extending this a little bit further and showing you what could be possible, and we know that language schools, well, any school is pretty tight with time, and there's lots of things to teach, especially if the kids are typically only at the school for about 6 months. However, if you did want to put an extra focus on an extra water safety program, and if you do 1 resuscitator mate, 1 metre lifeguard, a beach program, and a block of swimming lessons, that's an unreal program, and you'll have cash left over. If you want to go another step further and do the role model session as well, and do a bit of a first aid session, and do a second beach program where the kids extend their skills. So basically, looking here, you've got your 3 metre lifeguards, 3 water safety sessions, 2 resuscitator mates, 2 beach programs, and a block of 5 swimming lessons. That's costing $255. Now funding is $235. So you can see how the funding that you're getting actually does cover a chunk, a very good chunk of the water safety programs and swimming that you would be looking to do. And even if you were looking to extend the range of what you're doing, basically it would still cover the bulk of that. Once again, you can slice and dice your programs however you want. You could do 2 blocks of swimming lessons and 1 of everything else if you want to. You can do 2 beach programs and not much of the classroom. Completely up to you. This is sort of just a menu and to give you an idea what things actually cost and what you might be up for. So how do you book? Well, the actual booking process, nothing actually changes. Apart from the fact that you will receive an invoice. So still book in from, we send out our monthly emails to all language school teachers who we've worked with over the years. And if you're not on that email list, if you're not getting a monthly email from diversityinclusion@lsv.com.au, then look at that email address on the screen now, and you can send an email saying you want to be added to our mailing list. Every month we've got a link to book a program with us, so that doesn't change. But basically, when you book a program in, we'll send you back an invoice for the amount that's booked. Ideally, book 3 months in advance. During the winter time, there's a little bit less lead time. We have a bit more time up our sleeves. In the summer, 3 months is kind of minimum. Like if we don't have bookings available before March right now. So as an example, and our pre-Christmas was booked up from about September. So give yourself a little bit of time, and we're more than happy to meet with any school, any teacher, any principal, and talk about what a pathway of programs ideally might look like for the whole year, and get those bookings in really early as well, if that's what you want to do. So okay, that's all from me. Once again, if you've got any questions, chuck them in the chat, or the diversityinclusion@lsv.com.au. So back to you, Caitlin.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael, and fantastic opportunities for resources, for programs for your school. So definitely look into that, and a fantastic way that Michael has set up the little table to show us what is available and what you can spend your funding on, to show that it is very closely connected to the funding that is available to you from next year. Okay, so we will jump straight into a bit more detail into the new resources and support material that has been made available to English language schools now, ready for next year when you can utilise your funding. I'm just going to pop a link in the chat there that will take you directly to the English language school support webpage on the toolkit, which is where you will find all of the resources and support material that I will show you right now. So here on screen, you can see just some examples of the resources that we have made available for you. And I would like to start off by giving a huge amount of credit to Sue Ackroyd, who, as mentioned by Liz White earlier in this presentation, has committed a lot of time and fantastic effort into creating these resources. Her expertise has been phenomenal. And we are so appreciative of the contribution she has made to swimming and water safety education through the development of these resources. So thank you, Sue. I think you're out there, and I do want to say thank you on behalf of everybody here at Lifesaving Victoria. So this on the screen now, you can see that we have to your right on the screen, these are the flashcards that we have developed. So they have images associated with swimming and water safety, as well as the vocabulary used to describe the action or the picture that is on that card. So fantastic for language development. You can develop these into different language games or activities to use in the classroom. A great opportunity to introduce students to the vocabulary that will be used during their swimming lessons and their water safety experiences. So great ones there. In the middle here is an example of one of the student workbooks. So this is an activity that's in the workbook. As you can see, very language focused, based on again, the vocabulary that they will develop through those flashcards, that they will experience through their swimming and water safety activities and programs as well. Now these are workbooks, we do have workbooks dedicated to junior primary, upper primary and secondary students. We also have resources that are coming out this week, so stay tuned. There will be some new ones popping up on that webpage that I've popped into the chat there, and they are targeted towards beginner, intermediate and advanced, or sorry, beginner and intermediate. So we've got some lower beginner, some upper beginner, some high to low intermediate and those sorts of levels for your students as well. So that might be more helpful for your group of students to be able to determine which level they will use, and there are different resources for the different levels there as well. We can also see another activity to the left of the screen, so that's more targeted towards the junior age group. So you can see very big, bold text, big pictures there as well, so very relevant and suitable to the age group and the language level of the students who will be using these resources. Now we're going to move into some tips and tricks. So this is a bit of a summary of everything that we have discussed in the webinar today. We will also be moving straight into the Q&A section after this, so if any questions do pop up, I can see it's a little bit quiet in the chat at the moment, but if you can think of any questions as I run through the tips and tricks, or if you have been holding off on any questions, now is the time to pop them straight in the chat, and we will have a dedicated Q&A after this slide here. So the first tip that we can give you is to understand what your school swimming funding can be used towards. So Liz has taken us through that, given you lots of information to understand exactly what the funding looks like and what it can be used towards. As we know, there is funding targeted towards transport as well, so that's very important to know. But the school swimming funding ultimately can be used to support any program that is related to swimming and water safety education. That includes resources as well. So thinking about the types of things that you could purchase or spend your school swimming funding on is very important. We then recommend that you utilise the options matrix tool, which I mentioned. That is on the toolkit. It is hopefully quite easy to find. It is a tab at the top of the screen which looks at the options for school swimming and water safety under school swimming programs. There's a tab at the top of the screen for school swimming programs, and that will take you to the options matrix tool. We encourage you to get in contact with your local swim school and discuss your program options, and we encourage you to do that as soon as possible if you haven't already. So make sure you can get in, book a time for your students to attend the swim school or the aquatic facility to continue with their swimming lessons and water safety programs. Learn about the Victorian Water Safety Certificate. Now, I haven't discussed too much about the Victorian Water Safety Certificate today, and that's because we don't want to overwhelm you all with this initiative here, but it is important to get an understanding of what it is about. There is lots of information on the toolkit about the Victorian Water Safety Certificate, so you can have a look into that as this is something that it is likely, especially for the junior primary students, as they go into mainstream schools, this is something that they will be working towards. It is anticipated that students will achieve the Victorian Water Safety Certificate at the end of primary school or mainstream primary school. So it's something that if you have students who will be continuing into that level of education, definitely get an understanding of that. That way you can discuss it with parents, you can give some understanding to your parents and to your families and to your students about what they can expect at the mainstream schools and their swimming and water safety programs, which are likely to include the Victorian Water Safety Certificate. Also consider when to include classroom resources in your program. We do recommend that you do include some of those resources before your students attend swimming lessons or a swimming and water safety program, as they can develop their vocabulary, they can understand the different water safety messages, they can see visuals of the waterways and the different activities or experiences so that they will take part in when they do have their swimming and water safety program. So definitely we encourage you to do it then. Also think about how you could implement throughout their swimming and water safety programs, maybe as a follow-up as well at the end. And do be aware that Water Safety Week is coming up next week. So that is a great time to start talking about water safety, start implementing those resources, think about your programs as well, and look out for lots of communications, social media posts from Lifesaving Victoria, as we will be having a lot shared next week during Water Safety Week. We then recommend that you look into LSV's open water or beach programs and those classroom programs as well. Think about how you could prepare your students for experiences outside of the pool so that they can take those skills and the knowledge that they develop during those swimming lessons into an open water environment, and think about how they could utilise that even further in those experiences. Then we also encourage you to host an information session for your parents. Now, please do contact LSV's Diversity and Inclusion team, as they host some fantastic information sessions and they are more than happy to help out with that as well. Okay, moving into our Q&A section. Now I'm just going to scroll through. I can't quite see any questions there. So we will move into our next slide, but please don't hesitate to pop any questions or comments that you have straight into that chat, and we can swing back around and revisit those as we go through. But as we wait for those questions to appear, we do request that you complete this very quick online survey. Now, as you can see, we do have a QR code. Everybody is very familiar with those QR codes there. So we do please ask you that you scan that QR code and you will be able to access our survey for today. It is a very quick survey. It shouldn't take you any longer than 2 minutes to complete. It just allows us to get an insight into your feedback about this presentation today, so that we can make sure that we continue to provide relevant webinars, relevant professional development for our teachers and the aquatic industry as well. If you would like to see more of these webinars, please do let us know. We do regularly host them, and hopefully next year we will be able to see you face to face at our in-person workshops as well. So if you are unable to access the QR code, you can access the survey by visiting www.slido.com and entering that code on screen there. I will just pop this into the chat as well. And the code does include the survey. It's all capital letters, LSVPD 2021. There we go. So that is in the chat. If you are unable to access the QR code, you can access the survey by following that link and entering that hashtag. Now we do have our final slide that I'll pop up as well. This is a great one that you can just take a quick snapshot of, or a snippy tool, or a screen grab of this one, so that you can have all of our contact details there. So we have education's contact details. We can be contacted via schoolswimming@lsv.com.au or by calling 9676 6940. Our diversity and inclusion team can be contacted at that email address on screen, which Michael shared earlier as well, and the phone number is also on the screen there. And DET, so Liz White's contact details can be, DET can be contacted for anything school swimming related at school.swimming@education.vic.gov.au or by calling that number on screen as well. So we do have another 4 minutes spare of this presentation, so I will leave this slide up here for you to access. I'll also pop the contact details in the chat so that everybody can have those even after we switch off the screen today. But we do want to say a very big thank you for joining us from everyone at Lifesaving Victoria. We will be hanging around for a couple more minutes. If you do think of any more questions, you can pop them in the chat and we will get to those before 4:15. But again, thank you very much for joining us today, and we thank you for your commitment to swimming and water safety education as well. It is a very important thing for our students, especially after the past 18 months that we have seen. We definitely want to see our students getting some form of water safety education before we hit that summer period, as we know it's going to be very busy, and we want to make sure that we are keeping our students as well as our community as safe as possible. On behalf of everyone at Lifesaving Victoria, thank you very much for joining us and have a fantastic afternoon.